All right, guys. This is about the third time I'm recording this. Let's hope this one works out. Um, so today I did not take a trade. I probably should have. Everything was kind of pointing towards taking it. The only issue is this is going to be my first trade on the live account. And it was more of a B plus setup in or a B to B plus setup, not an A plus setup that I personally like to take. If I already had some profit in there, I probably would have taken it. But in this particular case, didn't have any profit associated, so I'm still haven't taken any trades on my live account yet. So I did not take it. But maybe in the future, not maybe in the future, I will be taking those B plus setups once I have some form of a little bit of a wiggle room, right? Um, so yeah, let's actually see what it was I was looking at. So on the weekly, we are coming into this order block on the weekly, which is fine. And we reacted to it. We're pulling back a little bit. Great. The other thing that I saw is that we're actually in the 50% of the initial leg, right? First move, the initial move starts from down here. And we push all the way through. We're coming up to that 50%, respecting it very nicely. So from that, I'm like, okay, we should be bullish, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the lower time frames are ready to switch to being bullish just yet. So I kind of was thinking, okay, we might be able to go a little bit lower, see where we push into, and then look to get a pullback and potentially tomorrow and Friday go higher. Now, if we look at it from a weekly profile perspective, we have Monday, which is a bullish day. We have Tuesday, which manipulates um, Monday, and we have a Wednesday expansion, right? So this is looking like a classic expansion week. Thursday, if you look at it, we also did push down quite low. And now we're pulling back, obviously. But that is something that I didn't necessarily take into account today, that Thursday should push us lower, at least at some point, before us potentially looking to reverse and go higher. So into more of the nitty-gritty kind of stuff. What are we seeing? You see that we still have this weekly order block, but we also came into daily liquidity, right? And we're respecting the daily liquidity. We're not closing below it, right? So we can clearly see we wicked down yesterday on Wednesday, and now we wicked down again on Tuesday. Okay, so let's cut down onto lower time frames. So what are the lower time frames telling me? What is it that I can look at for me to potentially go lower? Um, on this particular time frame, we don't see anything. It looks like a lot of chop, no real displacement. Nothing really going on. Wicks on both sides of the market. Okay, cool. So nothing really here. On the 5 minute, which is where I really wanted to take a trade. Let me turn on this. So on the 5 minute, what I was personally waiting for was for us to take liquidity at least these highs. Why these highs? Well, with the way in which I trade, I like for either 8:30, 9:30. So sorry, either the 8 o'clock candle, 9 o'clock candle, or 10 o'clock candle to be the candle that creates the high or low of the day. And if we look here, the high of the day is over here. All right. This is the closest point to it. So I would have preferred for price to come up, take that liquidity, and then look to go short. Obviously, that did not happen today. But what did happen was that we had liquidity that was taken, right? Whoops. We have this high here at 5 a.m., which was swept. And if we look at the delivery of price here, we had an ISP that put in a new high. Price came back down with that ISP. So this should be a type 1 now. This type 1 pushes us up. We have equal highs, sweeps those equal highs, and immediately displaces down, giving us a SMB as well as a change of state and delivery. I was looking at this and I was like, yes, this is a trade that I could potentially take. But for me, this didn't look very aggressive. It didn't look like an aggressive push through. But now in hindsight, I can clearly see, yes, this was the aggressive, this was the push through, this was my manipulation range. And it was only a matter of me to enter in this particular case, I like to enter off of the change in state of delivery, which here's the entry, right? Price comes down, gives us an entry, cover the liquidated high, right? So we have these equals here, which will get liquidated, put my stop a little bit above those. We have our manipulation range, 2 standard deviations, and even came down to the 4 standard deviations relatively quickly. Not even relative, it was quickly. Let me see if I can. So all of this happened in the course of 30 minutes, and which is kind of crazy. And this is looking like 350 points in the course of 30 minutes. So this would have been a really fantastic trade for me. Um, but at the time, I just wasn't seeing it very clearly. And I was really looking for price to potentially come higher up and at least sweep out this high here. And I kind of dismissed, I would say, when this high to be taken. And I kind of dismissed that we had equals and ultimately, took those equals and went lower. So yeah, this would have been a, let's see here, a 6.6 R trade. Unfortunate. I think the total R would have been, so I would have taken 50% here. Let's mark that out so I can see it. So that's going to be 3.5. So it's at 1.7 plus 3.3. Was that 4R? So yeah, that would have been 4R trade, full volume, just like that. So yeah, it's a little disappointing that this is what happened, but it is what happens in trading, right? Very valid trade that could have been taken. And now we're starting to see what can happen into tomorrow, right? So into tomorrow, what I would kind of expect, since we have pushed so low into this weekly FEG, I would expect, PA to maybe start to putter around here a little bit, consolidate, maybe start putting in higher lows and whatnot, and then ultimately into next week, really look to push higher and take out this liquidity we have here, this liquidity. But yeah, that's the trade setup or the trade recap.